So here is a look at the participles packet, which I gave you for homework. And this is going to be just a little bit of help in case you get stuck here. So first off, the first two sections, I'm just asking you to decline first frater, which is the third declension noun, frater, fratris. I want you to do the retrieval on your own for the rest of these, but you're just declining that noun in the space below because those endings that you're going to use for that noun are going to be similar to the endings we're going to use with some of the participles we're going to look at this evening. And then here it's just malas which is a 2-1-2 adjective. The masculine endings are second declension masculine. One is the feminine endings, right? For first declension, these are just your first declension endings. So mala, malai, right? Malas, mali. And then neuter, you're going to have it's 2-1-2 because this is second declension neuter endings. So malam, mali, malo, malam. All right. I want you to do the rest on your own because again, this is retrieval. I want you to retrieve that second and first declension endings, and these third declension endings. Because they're super important and because we're going to use them also as the same endings for the participles we're about to look at. Okay? Before we go any further, something that I don't have in this packet, but which I think is important to recall is participles in English. And so I'll take a second here and write a couple examples out. Right? So you have the boy seeing his mother like shouts for joy. So the participle here is the seeing, right? It modifies a part of the main sentence, which is just a boy shouts for joy. And you can insert a participial phrase by placing this ing verb after the word it modifies, right? I could also, though, this is an active, present active participle, I could also use a passive participle. So the boy called by his mother. Now the boy is no longer doing the action, right? The mother is doing the action. And this is a passive participle. So the word that it's modifying, the boy, is now receiving the action rather than doing it when it was the boy seeing his mother. All right, so these are some examples of participles in English. And hopefully you've dealt with these a little bit in English class. But if you're not, we'll look at some more English examples later on to hopefully get a little bit more comfortable with it. All right, so we're going to move on. So formation of different participles. So in this section, I'm just letting you know how to form the base of the participle. And so then we're going to attach these endings. So this first part was from retrieving some endings that we actually already know that we're going to repurpose from nouns and adjectives to participle endings. And in this section right here, we're just looking at, all right, well, what are we going to attach those old endings onto? So for this example, I used the verb libero, liberare, liberavi, liberatus. And as you can tell, I went to the second principal part here, libero, liberare, right? And then just like I do with the present tense, I chop off the re, and that gives me my stem, libera. But for the present active, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to slap an ns onto that, so I get liberans. And then liberans is going to have the genitive form liberantis, which tells us that it's going to be what declension, right? Take a second and think. If it's liberans, liberantis, is it more like malas or is it more like frater? And that's what this first question is asking, right? I think it's more like frater, yeah. So you're going to put, you'd put liber here. Perfect passive now is the fourth principal part. So you have liber, liberatus, sorry, libero, liberare, liberavi, liberatus. And now we're going to take this fourth principal part, and no matter what verb it is, you just take the fourth principal part, and that's going to be your perfect passive participle. So here we see that I put the translations of each of these participles below to give you a sense of how to translate them in a sentence. Uh, and then we have the future active, which is again going to that fourth principal part, liberatus, but now to distinguish it from the perfect passive and make it future active, we add a UR here. And this is a great indicator, right? Because we also have a UR in the word future. So as you can see here, we have a UR in the word future, and we have a UR liberaturus in all future active participles in Latin. So for if the word was missus, and that's the fourth principal part, I'm going to add a UR, then I'm going to add a US, misurus. Does that make sense? All right. So we got to start getting more familiar with our principal parts again. And so I kind of gave you the present active, but what do we think the perfect passive and the future active participle are going to be declined by? Decline like? Are they going to be declined like frater, or are they going to be declined like malus? I'll give you a hint. You could write this after liberatus, and you can write this after liberatura. Yeah, they're going to be declined like 2-1-2 adjectives, all right? So you might be confused because we're talking about verbs and suddenly we're talking about case endings. Why is that? And that's because, well, actually, you know what? Hold on. Before we even do that, let's just focus purely on formation. And I'll explain why we're going to be putting these verbs into cases in a moment. But for right now, let's just practice this, right? So here we look at conjuro, and I give you present active, which means I want the present active participle, and I want it to be nominative plural. So I scroll up here and I recall, all right, how did I form the stem for the present active? Ooh, I went to the second principal part, and I added ns. What's the second principal part of conjuro? It's conjurare, right? So I chop off the re, I add ns, that gives me the nominative singular. But I need the nominative plural. So I go back up here and I say, how do I decline this? And I see liberans, liberantes. So I go and I imagine my genitive would be conjurans, conjurantes. I'm going to go and I'm going to write that, and I'm going to delete the ending, is, because that's the genitive ending, and go and find the nominative plural ending, which is what? We go up here, hopefully we've already filled in this chart, and we'd see that this is fratres, so it's an es ending in the nominative plural. I'm going to use an es ending here, and you'd be bang on correct. Yep, that's nominative plural. All right, and there's your present active nominative plural participle, plotting. The men plotting something, who knows? All right, so actually I'll leave that up. So now I'll do one more here, right? So perfect passive. So again, I'm going to go up here for the first couple until I feel a little bit more comfortable and I do some retrieval practice. But or maybe even better, you could start and say, well, how did I form the perfect passive? You think back in your mind really hard, and then hopefully you remember, oh, it's just the fourth principal part. So I take victus, and now though I see ablative plural. So how am I going to make this ablative plural? And you think, was this decline like a third declension noun or like a 2-1-2 adjective? And you see that us ending, and you're like, oh, it's a 2-1-2 adjective. So you're going to say victis. Perfect. It'll be next one, present active. So you're going to do the same process that you did for this first one up here, except for now you're going to put an accusative singular ending on it, right? So you know now, ooh, I remember how this works. I need to go to the second principal part, dicere, chop off the re, add an ns, decens, go to my genitive, decentis, delete the is, boom. What ending are you going to put on? Oh, we're going to put on the accusative singular ending. Is it No! No, that would be 2-1-2, right? Or no, it's 2-1-2. Present active. What type of endings does present active have? All right? I'm going to let you do the rest of these on your own for the practice, and we'll go over them in class. All right, this next section now is talking a little bit about, well, why do we need to be able to decline these words? We need to be able to decline them because we need them to agree with the word that's going to be either doing or receiving their action. If it's an active participle, the word they modify does their action. If it's a passive participle, the word they modify receives their action. So how am I going to tell whether this second word, they're all participles? We're just going to choose the ending that allows them to agree with the word that they're modifying. And so here, I know that this word is modifying caesare. So what ending is caesare? You have to use some case ending identification, which we've been doing all fall so far, and identify what case is that. And then you got to make this case match that case, which means you got to know, am I going to attach a 212 ending or a third declension ending on here? And you're going to decide that by seeing, if you see that NT, ooh, NT, where else is there an NT? There's an NT in present, right? So that's going to be a signifier that you are in the present active participle category, which when we went back up here, hopefully you still have written in, ooh, present active is declined like frater, right? So you're going to delete that, right? You're going to come back down here, and you're going to say, oh, I need a third declension ending. And you say, hopefully you say, oh, caesare I know is third declension, caesar, caesaris. So I just put an E in there. Then this one, you're going to say, is that a first person? I mean, is that a present active? I don't see an NT, so that probably means it's a what? Yeah, probably a perfect passive. So we got perfect passive we know is declined like what? Is declined like malus or frater? Who remembers? Malus or frater? Try and remember again, guys. I want you to do a retrieval. I don't want you just to look at the previous answers. That's not as helpful for us. Really struggle to think of it, and if you can't, then you can check some of the other notes you took. Hopefully you will remember that it's actually declined. Perfect passives decline like 212 adjectives, because the fourth principal part is always going to end with a US. Vocatus, right? Do, dari, dedi, datus. So you just need a 212 ending on there. All right. And then once you finish that, right, you match these up. This one I'm asking to make it future active, so you remember the difference. Try and remember the formation for future active rules. Once you do that, you're going to translate. And I've given a little tagline on there to remember, should the word that is being modified do the action of the verb participle, or should it receive it? And if you can't recall how to translate a participle, present active or perfect passive, remember I gave you some hints up here. All right, so I hope that's enough instruction and that this was helpful. The final section, we're not going to worry about. I didn't put that in your packet. We're going to do that later. Okay, so that's it. Have good luck, and email me any questions you have.